I'm not shocked to see him playing well in a quarterback-friendly offense where,
Yeah,
he has weapons around him. He's playing well, yeah.
true.
But he's also banged up right now. Hello and welcome back to the Second and Two podcast. I'm your host, TB. I got my co-host, producer extraordinaire, hat connoisseur, master of the grills. Also, apparently, connoisseur of new glasses because he gets like new frames every other week.
No, I wish.
Unbelievable editor of audio at top speed. Just want to give him a shout out because last week he got the pod out same day as recording. That's tough to do. And my guy got it done. So long intro. Jody! What's up, Joe?
Yes, sir. Nothing, bro. So the glasses I put on the whole. When I was in college, I was buying probably a new pairs. Honestly, every 2 weeks to like a month, just because I had nothing to spend money on, and I was tired of wearing the same glasses. But these ones, backtracking the whole reason I'm saying this, these ones I've had for a minute. I just probably haven't worn them in a while on here. I feel like I used to rock these all the time. So yeah, you got to switch it up. I almost threw on my sunglasses just to go with the times of me today, but we're here. It was a foggy day, if you ask me.
Was it?
Yeah, long day.
Well, we had like a super rainy day here, so
Yeah,
different climates, if you will.
yeah.
So we got to dive in. NFL news. We're getting later in the season. We just finished up week 13. We're going into week 14. We'll talk both about, today about what happened this past week and then what we're thinking coming up in future weeks, especially week 14. But we got to look at the playoff standings update after this weekend. Week 13 was another weekend full of upsets, a lot of underdogs
Yeah.
covering, even if they didn't win, covering spreads. One of our favorite new segments this year, Standing on Business. It was a tough award to give out this week because not a whole lot of people were standing on business, if you know what I'm saying. So a lot of underdogs, a lot of upsets. It was a huge week for the playoff standings. A lot of movement in
Yeah,
the
that's for sure.
standings.
I was gonna say I was thinking about it. I should have told you earlier, but we could have done the flip side of standing on business. Playing spoiler or something. Boiled milk. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe we reference CD Lamb and when the underdogs win, they're standing on their P's and Q's.
There you go. Something.
Um,
Because there was a lot for sure.
So if you look at the standings right now in the AFC, the Ravens, they got a huge overtime win over the Rams.
Yeah.
Painful game for yours truly to watch because it felt like the Rams were in control for a good chunk of it. Kind of let some stuff slip away towards the end. Mistakes that allowed the Ravens, to get it to overtime and really, the Ravens took the lead and the Rams had to come back and get it to overtime. But it felt like the Rams definitely left some points on the board during that game, messed some stuff up. They dropped an interception.
Especially with the safety, like they could have capitalized on that earlier too.
Yeah, they definitely had some miscues, some errors for sure. And so it goes to overtime. The Ravens get the ball first. You get the 3 and out, and you're feeling like, okay, the Rams get the ball back, coming off the big drive to tie the game, going to make it go to overtime, and all you need is a field goal to win. And instead, they go 3 and out as well, and then the Ravens win on the punt return. So big win for the Ravens, tough loss for the Rams, especially considering if you're looking at the Rams schedule moving forward, they've got some winnable games. So it felt like that might have been one of their tougher games remaining. And if you can win it and you've won 4 in a row with, 3 variable winnable games in front of you before you have to go on the road at San Francisco in week 18, felt like that was there's a tough loss. Not absolutely killing in terms of their playoff chances, but certainly did not help.
Yeah, definitely hurt.
Focusing on the Ravens, they're 10-3 now, and they're the 1 seed. And now, for the first time in about 5 or 6 weeks, that we've been looking at these standings. There's someone in sole possession of the AFC's 1 seed. It's starting to clear out a little bit. The Ravens look like the team in the driver's seat at 10-3. If they just handle business down the stretch, they should be the 1 seed. Sitting at the 2 seed, you've got the Dolphins. They did, however, lose this week to the Titans on Monday Night Football, but
Tough.
they're the 2 seed at 9-4 because both the Chiefs and the Jaguars took losses this week, and they both sit at 8-5. Chiefs hold the tiebreaker over the Jags, so they're the 3 seed. Jags are the 4 seed. For a while there, we thought these 4 teams, at one point, I believe these 4 teams were all 8-3.
Yeah,
And
that's a
you didn't
fact.
know kind of where this thing was going, and now we're starting to get some separation with 4 games to go. The Browns 8-5, the Steelers 7-6, the Colts 7-6 would be your other 3 wild card teams right now. However, we have an absolute logjam at 7-6 in the AFC right now. There are 2, 4, 6 teams that all have a 7-6 record. Those other 4 being the Texans, Broncos, Bengals, and Bills, which they are read in the order of their current standings right now based on all the tiebreakers and all the math. So at this point, it feels like any number of teams. There are truly 11 teams in the AFC that can make
That's
the
crazy.
playoffs. Yeah, and I mean, it's who knows? Who knows? It's tough because a lot of these teams are playing with backup quarterbacks. You
Yeah,
look up and you're like, okay, the Ravens are the healthiest team in the AFC. That's probably why they're the 1 seed, despite
yeah,
losing Mark Andrews and Kyle
yeah,
Hamilton went out during the Rams game. And it's saying something is that like they're probably the healthiest team right now. You go down the line, the Dolphins, we don't know what's going to happen with Tyreek Hill now,
yeah. That's
right?
tough, bro. They did not
They've
look the same without him.
exactly. And you've already lost um, you know, Achan for chunks of the season at running back, and
Yeah,
that's been tough. Obviously the Chiefs have lost more guys on defense. However, their problem has been offensively.
yeah.
They
They can't
cannot
score.
They can't get things going. No, they don't look like a normal Chiefs offense. And we had similar conversations about them last year. Without Tyreek Hill, what does that offense look like? Guys came through in the playoffs. So I
Yeah,
guess if you're a
Juju
Chiefs fan,
was definitely a help. If you look at what they're doing now, tough. Can't catch
I
a
mean,
ball. Lining up off sides. All sorts of things.
Kadarius Toney is. I mean, if you watched him at Florida, he's a talent, no doubt,
Yeah,
but he makes a lot of mental mistakes, and it makes it really hard to trust that guy. Like,
yeah,
it seems like he has a drop here, a missed route here, lines up offsides there. I mean, it's really tough to trust that he's going to do the right
he's
thing play to
supposed to.
play. I mean, and this is to me, this feels like high school football, where you've got like the uber talented kid that you're trying to just get to know the playbook,
Yeah,
and the kid
yeah.
just won't learn the
Gotta tell
plays,
him
and
on
you're
the
like,
field.
you're like, this kid's really like athletically gifted. If we could just get him, it's like this is the NFL, man. If Kadarius Toney can't get this stuff right, like you
Yeah,
figure someone's gonna like they're gonna move on.
he's running out of time. Yeah,
The
I mean that's what
problem
the
is
Giants did. They said, "Hey,
no,
you could get out of
yeah,
here, bro."
it makes sense. But the problem for the Chiefs is they don't have
Yeah,
guys
they don't have
stepping up at
options.
receiver. So clearly they're still kind of relying on him when it's tough. It's tough. Obviously with the Jags, Trevor Lawrence is banged up right now.
Yeah,
You look at the Browns. The Browns have lost like it feels like all of their starters. They've lost 3 different tackles this year.
yeah,
I mean, that's they just lost DeJuan Jones, who wasn't even their, he was a draft pick for them, but he wasn't their original
yeah.
starting tackle. They had already lost their 2 original starting tackles to start the year. Now they've lost DeJuan Jones too. They've lost Deshaun Watson. They lose Grant Delpit.
Nick
They've
Chubb.
just been they've lost Nick Chubb way earlier in the year. They have been super beat up, and yet that team is still finding ways to win. Credit to
Joe
their
Flacco.
yeah, I mean, yeah, to Joe Flacco for sure, stepping in and playing the way he's playing. But also credit to Jim Schwartz for managing the injuries on defense, and credit to their head coach for managing the injuries on offense. It's a testament to a team when you can lose that many crucial players and still be where they are in the playoff race right now.
Yeah.
You look at the Steelers, Kenny Pickett, when will they get him back? It feels like weeks away. You look at the Colts, they lost Anthony Richardson. It's been the Gardner Minshew show.
Yeah, true.
The Texans, they lose Tank Dell. DJ Stroud's now in concussion protocol. Dalton
Yep.
Schultz has been hurt. Nico Collins
Nick
is
Collins
out.
just got hurt too. Yeah.
I mean, golly. And then you look at the Broncos. The Broncos are actually pretty healthy compared to all these teams I just said. Which I think we'll probably bring up here in a future segment. But
Yeah.
you look at all these teams, and they're all just the Bengals. They're losing Joe Burrow. The Bills.
And Jake Browning's looking nice though.
Jake Browning's been playing well. I told you he was very productive at Washington, man. He really was. And I'm not shocked to see him playing well in a quarterback-friendly offense where
Yeah.
He has weapons around him. He's playing well, yeah.
True.
But he's also banged up right now, coming off that game. And so I think the expectation is he'll start, but I believe he had to sit out of practice today.
Oh, really? Dang.
Yeah. And then you look at the Bills, and they've lost, a bunch, Matt Milano and Tre'Davious White, and so they're really banged up too. So at the end of the day, you look at the AFC, and it is a war of attrition. Like, last team standing is probably going to be the team that maintains whatever level of health they have right now through the end of the season, because all these teams are hurt. They're all missing critical players. None of them are at full strength. And quite frankly, none of them feel like they're playing their best football yet. Maybe the Ravens, but even the Ravens looked vulnerable the way the Rams played against them this weekend.
That is true.
You could argue the Bills had a big win against the Chiefs in Arrowhead, so you could maybe say they're playing some of their better football of the year. But for the most part, this is a toss-up, absolute toss-up in the AFC. I couldn't tell you who I like or who's even going to make the playoffs right now.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, all those 7 and 6 teams. I mean, someone's got to make it. That's how we feel with like whoever's
hashtag analysis.
The NFC. No, like the NFC South, where they're all the same record. One of them's gonna win the division, and they also have a shot to take the last spot. It's not a big one, but they have a shot, and it's just like, I don't know. Whoever comes out there is either gonna be a spoiler in the playoffs, or it's gonna just be like, oh, they made it. That's the team. Let me go over there, or let them come here, and we'll smoke them, and then we'll be on to the next one. And so it's just like, it'll be tough, but if I could see the Browns being one of the teams that's solidified in the wild card. Honestly, Steelers, I still don't feel good about them. Colts, same situation, a little bit iffy, but Gardner Minshew has pulled out some good wins. And then all those teams in the hunt are the ones that, like the Bills, I would say. The Bengals, I didn't know Jake Browning was hurt till now, so that's tough. But like Bills and Broncos, good defenses. Bills could definitely score better than the Broncos, but the Broncos have production. And Texans without CJ Stroud right now, I don't know how that's going to play out.
Yeah, I mean, I was hopping on that Houston train a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But with all the guys getting hurt, kind of feels like they're being derailed right now. And if CJ has to miss another week and they drop another game and now they're 7-7, I think that makes their path a lot harder. So what I would say is this. I think the Browns, you have to give them an upper hand because they have the one game on everybody else. They have some tiebreakers. But I also really think that the other two teams playing the best football, based on what we've seen the past few weeks, I would argue the Broncos and the Bills. I would say those are the three teams, and this changes every week when we talk about this because a few weeks ago I thought it was the Steelers and the Texans and the Browns, and then it was like, and we were counting the Bills out, and then it was, well, the Bengals are out because they don't have their quarterback, and it's felt like the Colts with Gardner Minshew have been kind of a fun story the whole time, but I don't know that I've taken them seriously as a playoff team. But today they would be in. So you kind of look around. I don't know. I mean, it changes week to week. Right now, I'd take the three teams to start with B: the Browns, the Broncos, and the Bills. Those would be the three I would I would say you would look
The
at
big
going into
baller
the
brain, huh?
playoffs. Yeah, I mean, the Bengals get left out there, unfortunately, but, those would be the 3 I would take today, and we'll see.
Yeah,
Um, when you flip it over to the NFC, though, you've got 3 teams at the top, very clear 3. It's the
yeah,
49ers, the Cowboys, and the Eagles. Those are the 3 best teams. Now, what's interesting is the 49ers now hold blowout victories over both the
yeah.
Cowboys and the Eagles, and because the Cowboys were able to
Beat the
handily
Eagles.
beat the Eagles on Sunday
Yeah.
Night Football last week, the 49ers are now the number 1 seed in the NFC at 10-3.
Let's say
They
give
had
credit to
that.
the Cowboys too, they took that 2nd spot.
Yeah. And the Niners, they had that weird 3-game stretch. They lost to the Browns and the Vikings, and
Yeah.
I believe it was the
Without their
Bengals.
dudes, though.
Yeah, and,
Debo hurt, Trent Williams hurt. Now they're
they
healthy and
they
haven't
did
looked
have
back
guys
since.
hurt. They are healthy, and they look I mean, when healthy, they
Like a
look like the
freight
best
train, bro.
team.
They just
They look
take
like
off
the
on
best team in the
everyone.
NFL. They look like
Yeah,
the best team in the league right now when they're healthy like this. Now, the question with them is always, will they stay healthy? And we don't know.
true.
As you mentioned, the Cowboys, they're in that 2 spot at 10-3. The Lions are at 9-4, coming off a tough loss to the Bears on the road.
Yeah.
The Bucks, an impressive road win in Atlanta. They're 6-7. They take over the 4th seed this week. 2 weeks ago, it was the Saints. Last week is the Falcons. This week it's the Bucks. Who knows who's winning that division? Like you said earlier, someone's got to win it. So we'll find out. The Eagles now have the 5 seed at 10-3. Interesting note, though, if both the Eagles and Cowboys were to win out the way the schedules are set right now, the Eagles still control the ability to win the division. So because
Dang.
the Cowboys and Eagles split,
Yeah.
I believe it goes to divisional record is the next tiebreaker,
Okay.
and I think they're and after that it's the conference record. And for whatever
Okay.
reason, the way the games play out moving forward, if the Eagles were to win out and the Cowboys were to win out, technically the tiebreaker would actually flip to the Eagles. Right now it's the Cowboys, but if they both won
Yeah.
out, it would actually flip
That's
back
pretty
over to the
crazy.
Eagles. Yeah, so if they both went out and they were both to go 14-3, you'd have the Eagles as the 2 seed or 1 seed, and you'd have the Cowboys as the 5 seed. So even though the Eagles are the 5 seed today, they still control their own destiny. That
Yeah.
could change. Obviously, we'll see what happens with those 2 teams. The Cowboys have a tough matchup this week with the Bills. I'm sure Eagles fans are rooting for a Cowboys loss there. But the Vikings, they win a weird game over the Raiders, 3-0.
Yeah,
Probably the most
crazy.
boring game of the weekend.
Yeah. Probably, like,
They're
ever.
7-6. Yeah. And then very similar to the AFC and the NFC, you have a logjam. It's just at 6-7. The
Yeah.
Packers 6-7, the Rams 6-7, the Seahawks 6-7, the Falcons 6-7, and the Saints are 6-7. So again, 11 teams, very much so alive. Now, in the AFC, there's a clear cutoff. There's no 6-7. It goes to 5-8. And the
Yeah.
NFC, there are a couple 5-8 teams, the Bears and the Giants, who have made some late pushes here,
Yeah.
theoretically alive. They're only 2 games or a game back from all these other teams. So they're there as well, worth mentioning. But I mean, again, I think we know the division winners, at least for 3 of the divisions, right? The Cowboys are, well, we know the Eagles or the Cowboys will win the division. The other team will get the 5 seed. The
Yeah.
49ers will win the division. The Lions will win the division. Beyond that, I mean, who knows what these other playoff teams will be. I mean, you look at the Vikings, they're 7-6, right? They have a little bit of a leg up on everybody else in that wild card
Yeah.
race. They're having to turn to Nick Mullins as their starting quarterback this week because the Pastronaut, it looked terrible for 2 weeks in a row,
Yeah.
right? So they're moving away from your guy Dobbs. Sorry, man. I know Dobbs is your
Oh, well.
boy, but it's Nick Mullins' time now.
Was that a
Brucey's time to
reference to the
shine.
hat?
Brucey's time to shine. No, it could be a reference to the hat. Would you like it to be?
Oh, no, I don't know. I thought that's why you paused for a second. I was like, "Oh, maybe he's talking about the hat." I don't know. But, no, I actually bought it in this colorway because of the Lakers, if I'm being honest.
Oh, fair, 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 fair. I like that. Way to go. Um, so you look at that, you're like, okay, the Vikings, I guess but like their starting
They're
quarterback this week
spiraling
is
out of
Nick.
control.
It feels like, and they've got to play the Lions 2 more times.
Yeah. Didn't
They got to
Justin
play the
Jefferson get
Packers
hurt
1 more
again? I
time.
don't know how that worked out. I don't.
I mean, the Vikings remaining schedule. They play the Bengals this week,
They
who
play
look
the
good with
Bears
Jake
twice, I
Browning.
think.
Huh?
I said I think they play the Bears twice too. I'm not
No, the
positive.
Vikings have the Bengals this week. They get the Lions, the Packers, then the Lions again.
Oh,
That's their final
Lions.
4. So they potentially could lose out.
Yeah.
I mean, those are all
And slip
4
from their
like kind of
spot.
top like right. I mean, if you think the Lions are the team that they are and they're going to figure their stuff out, you think it's at least 1 loss to the Lions, if not 2. And then the
Yeah. True.
Packers, that's going to be a huge game. And the Vikings were able to beat them the first time in Lambeau, right? So the Packers are going to want that one. And then
But
this
that was
week they have to
Turkey.
go. They have to go to Cincinnati, who's playing really well, and they're also in a playoff race. So they're
Yeah.
playing 4 teams that are all in the thick of the playoff race, and they're starting their third string quarterback. So I don't know that I can
Tough.
count on the Vikings. The Packers were red hot, beat the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, and then come around and they mess around and lose to the Giants on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to make of the Packers. Jordan Love
DeVito.
was really good, yeah, but then DeVito was better. Um,
Chef's hand or whatever.
yeah.
Give him a
So I
chef's
mean,
kiss.
if you're looking at this, Joe, I mean, I think the 2 teams I would take would probably be the Packers and the Rams. The Seahawks, they're spiraling. We talked about that a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago. They play the Eagles this week. Doesn't feel like that's going to get. They've lost 3 in a row, and now they're playing the Eagles. Or no, I'm sorry, 4 in
Yeah.
a row, and now they're playing the Eagles, who came off back-to-back losses and really need this game. So Seattle has to play their best game of the year to beat Philly.
Yeah. No, and the Packers, their schedule's pretty favorable too. They got the Bucks, the Panthers, the Vikings, and the Bears going forward. Like, yeah, they got the Bucks being one of the teams possibly making the playoffs, and then Vikings, as we mentioned as well, and then the Bears being in the hunt right now, a little bit outside of them. But I mean, the Panthers, that should be at least a win. I don't know how easy of a win, but it should be a win. Bucks is a toss up. They win one week and then they get blown out the next, and it's like who knows what they're doing often. Bears, they could score now, but it's also just like they beat them that first time they played them. So I don't. Preparation comes down to it. They play them every year, so they should have some good insight. And outside of that, though, I think at least 2 they could split those easy in my eyes. Maybe even go 3-1. But that's how I would pull for the
I
Packers.
mean, I think right now I like the Rams and the Packers as those 2 wild card teams in the NFC South. I don't know. I mean, I really at different times this year I've thought different things about all 3 of those teams.
I thought the Falcons
I
were the
think
best
this
team in that division. And
I
I thought
think
the Saints going in, Falcons as it progressed, and here we are. They're just
well,
all the same.
coming into the year, I thought it was the Saints. Saints have the most
Yeah,
talent. I thought they had the best quarterback.
true,
After the first 4 weeks, remember the Bucks were 3-1. So I was like, well, maybe the Bucks are for real.
true.
And
Yeah,
then it
Baker
flipped
came out
back
hot.
and the Saints at one point had the division at 5-5. Well, then the Falcons beat them in New Orleans, and you're like, okay, well, I guess it's the Falcons. Well, then the Bucks beat them in Atlanta, so I guess it's back to the Bucks. I
Yeah.
really, if I had to bet one of those 3,
I feel like you leave it up to math, bro. You pick a team and then you have to switch the door and then pick a different team. You know what I mean?
so if that's the logic, then stick with the team from the preseason, which means the
Yeah,
Saints. I'm
true.
going
The
to stick
Saints.
with
It comes
my
full
original
circle.
thought, which is the Saints. I'll stick with the Saints right now to win it. So moving forward, I mean, any other? I mean, Joe, you think anything different there in terms of those last
No,
few?
I mean, I don't know the rest of the Seahawks, but I say maybe the NFC West pulls in there, so then we get Eagles, Rams, Seahawks. Don't know what
Mm.
I know the Rams got the Commanders next week, and then the Saints after that. Don't know who else. Uh, Seahawks probably something similar. I'm assuming. Oh, we did mention that the Rams had the Niners, so that's gonna be tough. But
Yeah, the Rams, they get
however it all
Washington.
scrambles, they might be able to both get in there. I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be tough. I mean, Seattle basically has to hope if they're going to get in, it's basically them and the Rams getting in because the Rams own that tiebreaker. So they probably would have to hope that they finish as the two best records of the wild card
Okay,
teams, and the Rams get the 6 seed, and the Seahawks would get the 7 seed
the
at that
7.
point. The Rams finishing up, they have the Commanders, the
Saints.
Saints, the Giants, and the Niners. So
Hmm.
not easy, not hard is what I would say. It's kind of a middling last 4 games
Yeah,
here, but just looking ahead, I mean, week 15, there is a really massive Saturday slate. There's Saturday, we have a triple header, and they're all playoff implication games. You got the Vikings at the Bengals,
yep.
battle of
Both of
7 and
them
6
hot.
teams that are trying to make the
Yeah.
playoffs right now. You've got the Steelers at the Colts, battle of backup quarterbacks,
Ooh,
7 and 6. Again, for
both current
playoff.
wild card teams.
Mhm. One will stay in and one will drop out, basically,
Yeah,
based on who wins. You got the Broncos and the Lions. Another huge game. The Lions are spiraling a little bit, but they're back at home. They need a win.
yeah.
The Broncos, man, it feels like they can get a win there. They'll
That's
feel
huge
really good moving forward
going
about their
forward.
playoff
Yeah,
positioning. So that's the Saturday slate, just the Saturday games. Awesome slate of games. 3
yeah,
really good ones. Should all be great. Then you look at Sunday and you got the Bucks at the Packers, battle of 6 and 7 teams in the
yep.
playoff hunt. You got the Cowboys at the Bills.
That's gonna be a
Two
good one.
marquee teams, marquee quarterbacks.
Yeah,
The Bills feel like if they could win that game, man, once again, we're
weather on
talking
their
about them as a
side. Yeah,
dangerous playoff team. The Cowboys are red hot, though. The difference here, the Cowboys are not at home.
yeah,
So we'll see if they can win a road game here. And then the Ravens at the Jags. Probably very important, maybe not for who makes the playoffs, but seeding. So we've got some really, really good games this week 15 slate.
yeah. That Broncos and Lions one, we'll take a peek back at that one, looking ahead. But yeah, I mean, out of all those games, I'd say I'm most excited for that one for sure. And then on Saturday, and then going into Sunday, I'd probably pick that Cowboys Bills easy.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
two teams
Um,
that have always been in the playoffs in recent times, or like at least make it. Then what happens from there, who knows? But like you said, the quarterbacks, we got Josh Allen and Dak, both looking. I I should say Dak's been looking really good. I couldn't speak for Josh Allen. I don't watch much of the Bills, but Dak's been crazy. CD, I mean, that's how it goes, right? Josh Allen with the Dak. You got Stephon with the CD. It's gonna be a time, bro.
so we wanted to do a quick, following up on we talked about the seeding and where things are at. Quick segment here. Who is this year's '07 Giants? Who's the sleeper team most likely to win the Super Bowl this year? It's been a while since we had a team like that make a run all the way to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
We've had a lot of big dogs recently. This year, it feels like there's a lot more parity in the league, maybe more chance for a team like that to make a run. So, Jody, our criteria is this: they cannot be currently winning their division, and they must
okay.
be 7 and 6 or worse. So, who would be your sleeper Super Bowl contender in the NFC and the AFC?
So for the NFC, I kind of talked about them already. The Packers, like I said, they got Bucks, Panthers, Vikings, and Bears going forward. They're at 6 and 7 right now. On the seeding, they're the 7th seed, so they would be in the wild card already. But with the who we looking at? The Lions, never mind. They might not ever catch that. But with the Vikings ahead of them at 7 and 6, I think the Vikings would slip out altogether,
Mhm.
and then they would solidify their spot, especially since they got to play them eventually. That's just another game where they could get either ahead, at least tied, depending on what happens before that. And then for the AFC, I got the Broncos, and I think they could even pull out the division, as crazy as that might sound. So they
Well,
got
they're
the
only a
Lions
game
this week.
back.
Yeah, Exactly. 8-5 is what the Chiefs are. They're 7-6. So they got the Lions, Pats, Chargers, and Raiders going forward. The Chiefs got the Patriots, Raiders, Bengals, and Chargers. So similar games, but the Bengals definitely gonna be tougher for them, and their tough game would be, I guess, the Lions this week for the Broncos. So if the Broncos pulled this one off, and Chiefs lose to the Bengals, don't know what else happened for the division games, but they would be tied, and they split. So
I hadn't considered that. I had
there's a
not
way.
considered that. The Broncos winning that division after starting 1-5, and the Chiefs were probably something like 4-2, 5-1,
Yeah.
would be one of the most have to be one of the most improbable division like comebacks in recent
And
NFL history.
speaking of winning the Super Bowl, right? I think the year they won with Peyton, they started out 0-3 as well, and then pulled it off in the end. So
Okay.
who knows? Who
All right.
knows?
In the NFC, my team right now would be the Rams. I know, homer pick, but listen, hear me out here. They're playing really good football with Kyron Williams running the ball. Cooper Kupp looks healthy again. Puka
Kyron's a
Nakua
beast.
is unbelievable. I mean, you
Also,
put all three of those weapons together with Stafford being healthy, the offensive line playing well enough to keep him upright, and then they've got a young defense that's been getting better every week.
yeah,
I think you look at it, the Rams, their schedule, we mentioned it, they get 2 home games versus Washington and New Orleans the next 2
yep.
weeks. They can win those games and
Saints
get
is
to
that
8 and
Thursday
7.
game too.
You win those games, you can get to 8 and 7. You got to go on the road at New York, which if you asked 3 weeks ago, that looks like an easy game. Now it doesn't.
Yeah,
Ask the Packers.
true.
That's a tough game. You got to win it though to get to 9 and 7. And then your best bet would be that San Francisco has the 1 seed locked up going into week 18. So you go
Yeah,
to
true.
San Francisco and they rest
And
their
they're
guys.
resting. Yeah,
And if you win out, you'd be 10 and 7. Because I think the path would be that. And then you get the 6th seed. Because in the 6th seed, you get to play the Lions in round 1. Now
ooh,
that's
that's really nice.
Matthew Stafford going back to Detroit for a playoff
Yeah.
game. That's McVay versus Goff, right?
Uh-huh.
Stafford versus Detroit. A lot of ties there between those two teams. I mean, that's a storyline everyone wants to see, right? Like that.
Sounds like
There's
an
no
NFL
more
ring
like,
right there.
yeah, there's no more like fun playoff game than that would be. And obviously, of the teams that you'd want to see, clearly the NFC South, you want that, but like you're not getting that because you're
Yeah.
not getting the 5 seed. The 5 seed's going to go to the Cowboys or the Eagles. You don't want
Yeah,
the 2
true.
seed because Philly at home or Dallas at home is dang near impossible, or San Francisco at home for that matter.
Yeah.
It's a death sentence. So you really want to play that Detroit team because they don't have
True.
the playoff experience. And if it's Stafford at Detroit, I feel great about that. I would feel better about that than I probably have in most recent memory, like Rams playoff games, honestly.
Yeah.
So
True.
your path there is you win that game. Okay, now you're in round 2, and you're probably getting matched up with San Francisco if they're the 1 seed, realistically,
Yeah.
because you're the lowest remaining seed. So now you got to go to San Francisco, and that's a team that you
You
know
see
very
twice a
well.
year. Yeah.
You beat them in the NFC Championship to win the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
Yep.
Divisional games, the third time that you play, weird stuff happens.
Uh-huh.
Maybe you get an upset there. Now all of a sudden you're in the NFC Championship and you're playing Philly or Dallas, more than likely to win that. I mean, some
Yeah.
magic would have to happen at that point. But
Yeah.
the path, I think, is you get the 6th seed and you play Detroit in round 1.
Uh-huh.
That would be my
Most
thought
favorable
on that.
matchup for sure.
In the AFC right now, I think it's the Bills. Everyone
Mhm.
left them for dead. They've lost a lot
Me
of weird
included.
random games this year, and it feels like they've played well in those games. I mean, the game they played at Philly, they played well enough to win. Um,
That
can
is
they
true.
beat Dallas at home is what this is gonna come down to, because after that, you play at the
Facts.
Chargers, very winnable. You play
Uh-huh.
versus New England. Gosh, they can't
Winnable.
drop a second game to New England this year. They better win that game. And then at Miami. At Miami's a tougher one. They already beat
True.
them at home this year, but you never know what could happen there. And so
Sunday afternoon in the heat,
I think
maybe?
they got to go at least 3-1, be 10 and 7, and give
Yeah.
yourself maybe the Jaguars in round 1. Maybe even the Chiefs, and you just proved you can beat them in Arrowhead. Or
Yeah.
the Broncos, as we were talking about. But I do think there's a realistic path where Josh Allen just gets hot and starts throwing flamethrowers in the playoffs, and now you don't want to play them. So those would be
Yeah,
my two picks. I like your two as well. I think any one of those 4 could play spoiler.
that is true. But look into our fantasy. So we missed out on that last week. So spoiler, I beat you last week. And also this week. So your boy took the in-season tournament, if you will. So we'll clap it up for me. Give myself a little trophy. So that leads us week 15, start of our playoffs, which means it don't matter who's starting because everyone's points. So it's gonna be a total of our bench and our starters. So as long as you ain't got no injuries, like you should be chilling. But I will say the last 2 weeks, let's see, let's go back 3 weeks. I would have won if we did it the last 3 weeks. Let's see, 4 weeks ago, also would have won that one. So I guess as a whole, my team somehow figured it out. But without Tyreek now, I don't know. I don't know if Tyreek has been my breadwinner for a long, long time. So I need him the ball. Also, though, Evan Ingram, he's going to be a huge guy without Christian Kirk now. He's been balling. This past week, he got 32.5. Let's see. Your biggest guy on the bench was, Eckler, 21. And then Josh
Okay.
Allen right after, a little 20-ish. Brees Hall, I guess, had a day, 26.6. They went crazy. What was it, like 30-6 or something? Let's see. For our starters, though, our quarterbacks didn't do all too much. I got 8.8 out of Hurts. You got 13.6 out of Patty. Let's see. Cooper Kupp was my dude that balled this week, 25.5. You had Saquon at 23.1. Bijan also balled, 19.8. And then, yeah, my next dude was Isaiah Likely because Mark Andrews is donezo. So 19.3 there. Which grand totals for our starters, I had 122.5. You had 99.6.
Yeesh.
So rounding
Yeesh.
out 8-6 for the boy. You were 6-8, obviously. Leading the playoffs. Now it matters.
Now it matters, baby. Well, this is the start of fantasy playoffs. In my other 2 leagues,
Yeah.
the 12-team league, it's a 6-team playoff. I made it in, so I'm in the
Lucky,
winners
bro. I got
bracket.
snubbed.
I'm in the winners bracket. I am the 6th seed though,
Yeah, see,
so
that would have been
tough
me too
path.
had I made it.
Tough path. In the league I'm in at work, I'm the 1 seed. So,
Oh, okay.
and it's only a 4-team playoff, so just win 2 and you're in. You
Yeah,
win it.
yeah.
So, I guess I've got a shot to win both. The one that's for money, I'm the 6th seed. So I gotta,
Uh-huh.
and it's like
Yeah,
one of
yeah.
those like projections say 50-50. Should
Oh,
be a
okay,
tight
okay.
ball game this week. And then
It's like
winner gets
the scores is 122.1 to like 122.
hmm So we're winner will play the 2 seed, and then winner of that will move on to the championship, obviously. So you got to
Yeah.
win 3 games to win this thing. And
Yeah.
I feel good. I feel good about it. Jalen Hurts, I think, can carry me to fantasy glory. I just need him to be healthy and play well. But are we ready to get to awards?
Yeah, let's do it, bro.
All right. So our awards for week 14, or I'm sorry, week 14. Holy smokes, we're in week 14. Wow. My Tukwa Gamer of the Week award goes to Zach Wilson of the New York Jets. He threw for 311 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 30-6 blowout of the Texans. He was incredible in the second half, and it had to feel good to
Yeah,
play that
definitely.
well after being benched, watching his team struggle even worse without him in the starting lineup. I mean, he had to watch Tim Boyle start 2 games.
Yeah.
It had to feel good. Like, he came back. He's likely playing to have a job somewhere next year, whether it be with the Jets or somebody else. And he played his best football game of his career. Like, no doubt. He
Easy.
looked awesome. He was really good. So Credit to Zach Wilson. Got to feel good for that kid. And who's your dog of the week, Jody?
Oh, well, my Tuca gamer of the week before we get into my
Sorry.
dog.
Tuker game of the week. I'm sorry. Golly, I choked
I went
again.
with Evan Ingram, so I talked about him balling in that fantasy update. The dude went 11 for 12, so he had 11 catches, 12 targets, 95 yards, and 2 tutties. Like I said, without Christian Kirk, someone's got to step up. Obviously, they got Calvin Ridley, but Evan Ingram's been there longer than Calvin, so he's got more rapport with our guy, Trevor Lawrence. And 11 for 12, you only dropped one ball. I couldn't tell you what it was, but hey, that's impressive to me. That's a good day on the job. You know what I mean? Catching everything going your way, basically. Can't complain about that. And you're in the end zone twice, putting up points for the boys. But going to the dog of the week, I'm throwing a little curveball at you this week. I went with
Okay.
a squad, not just a dude. So I'm going with the Broncos defense. They let's see. What are my notes saying right here? Well, they got 6 sacks on the day. First off, against the Chargers. 4 of those were on Herbert before he was watching from the sidelines. They forced a fumble. They got a pick. I guess they recovered a fumble. I should say they didn't just force it. But here's the stat right here, bro. 0-12 on third downs. They were doing real well, keeping them Doids straight to the sidelines. You know what I mean? So they balled out there, and then what does that have to do? It says, okay. The Chargers didn't score until there was 10:37 left in the fourth quarter on the clock. So they went a solid, what is that, 50 minutes basically before they scored at any point. So
That's impressive.
that's some dogs right there, if you ask me.
Yeah. That's impressive. It's crazy that this is the same defense that gave up 70 earlier this year. It's
70
insane.
points.
It's insane. It's not. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel like real, but that's good stuff. I got the minor setback for a major comeback. The Lions, and particularly Jared Goff, struggled on the road in Chicago against the Bears. Goff threw 1 touchdown, 2 picks, only had 161 yards passing on the day. They have a tough game at home against the Red Hot Broncos, as we mentioned. But still, I expect Goff to bounce back at home in a game the Lions really need to win to help them maintain their 2-game lead in the NFC North. So minor setback, major comeback. Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions.
Yeah. Seems like, especially going home, like you're in the dome, you can't complain about too much there.
Yeah.
Chicago's cold. They've been hot in recent times with Justin Fields, so them boys should be getting on track for sure.
All right, so we got the no cap hats off play of the week. And in this case, it's a little bit of a series. We're going to college football. We love to highlight college football in this specific award every week. Army Navy, the Commander's Cup,
Yeah.
right? Navy has first and goal from the 7-yard line. Time running out. They throw three passes from the 7. They complete the one on third down to get it to the 2-yard line. 4th and goal from the 2. They try to run the quarterback. Army gets the goal line stand, takes the safety to take off the rest of the time. Army wins, dude, 17-11. Congrats to Army. To
Yeah.
stop Navy 4 straight plays, goal to go from the 7 or less. So impressive.
Yeah.
What fortitude from that Army defense, and smart play at the end to take the safety to run out the clock as you do it. Game over. They win.
Yeah.
Navy loses. Big stuff from Army. No cap hats off
Yeah.
award this
Yeah.
week. Army.
Well, we'll see that one again later too, for sure. Feel bad for some people. But that leads us to our Strahan Munoz Big Fella Award. And for me this week, I'm going with the Bears. Braxton Jones, number 70, left
Ooh.
tackle. Left tackles are, blindside. You gotta love watching those dudes. But this guy,
Yeah.
I loved watching him. He's probably one of my favorites I've watched all year. He His base, he's got a nice base on him. He's always playing one-on-one on the outside, which I mean, that's unfortunate, but I mean, I guess that's kind of expected being on that side too. But where are we? Boom, boom, boom. Yep, good in space, as I said. Oh, he reads his blocks well. Yeah, obviously the vision I mention every week. with the stunts, but he has it when he was even doing pools. Like he's running around, knows which dude to get. They had a play. Gets up on the corner, boom, touchdown right behind him. Like
Ooh,
beautiful things. Let's see.
tackles love getting up on corners, bro, on
Yeah,
DBs in general.
yeah. And then where he's good at getting to the second level as well whenever they're doing combos. But okay. And his pass pro, he's always standing people up too. He's just stronger than everyone. So like they might get like a step or two on him where he's like pushing back, but then he just stops them right there, just locked up. Justin Fields either running or chucking it, like pretty things right there. And then his hands, bro, just good enough to like get him. And then, like I said, where he's holding them. And then this one's a little bit of a joke to me. I don't know. He might have hands. He might be able to catch the ball. They were running. They had a weird package where he was like the tight end on the right side of the ball. So they would move him over to the other side of the field, run him as a tight end. So I don't know. Maybe he could catch. To be continued. I don't know. But yeah,
Every
Braxton
offensive
Jones is
lineman's
my guy.
dream.
Yeah.
All right. On the Strahan side, I've got Hassan Reddick. I know the Eagles lost. I know they got embarrassed on Sunday Night Football. I don't
Yeah.
care. Hassan Reddick had a day. This man had 3 total tackles, 2 sacks, 2 TFLs, 2 quarterback hits against the Cowboys. He was all over the place. He's not been nearly as good as he was last year, but he still has games where he flashes like he did in Dallas. He keeps playing that way. That'll really help Philly because they're really beat up on the back end. They need their pass rush to show up to help them down the stretch. You can beat their secondary. So they
Yeah,
really
that's for
need that
sure.
pass rush to be what it is. And Hassan Reddick, he showed up Sunday. He needs the rest of the guys to come with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We got the Who's Cooking Award.
I got a
And
typo on mine, but I'm gonna just say I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. Woo!
ooh,
I'm rolling with Lamar Jackson this week. You kind of touched on it earlier. Obviously, the Rams lost sadly in OT, but Lamar Jackson, bro, he went 24 for 43, 316 with 3 tutties. He threw a pick. Then he had 11 rushes for 70 yards. I wanted to go with Matt Stafford on this one, if I'm being honest. But as I was watching the game, it was just like Lamar was just doing things way better.
Lamar
And
made
the
the plays to
mobility.
win.
Exactly. The mobility aspect, too. Just another level to the game, obviously. Matt Stafford was taking more sacks. So it was like, it's a tough situation right there. So I ended up getting flipped on this one than Lamar. Obviously, he had good plays throwing the ball. And then doing it with your legs just makes you so much better. So Lamar this week versus the Rams.
I like it. Great choice. I'm going with Will Levis on Monday Night Football.
I wanted him, but you had
Win.
him.
Yeah, a comeback win over the
I wanted him
Dolphins.
for the dog, actually, if I'm being honest.
He threw for 327 yards and a touchdown,
Yeah,
but that's not the most impressive part.
yeah,
Early on, rookie throws a pick six from inside his own 10 on the road, right? You're down 7-0. Oh no, what are we going to do? Kid, it didn't phase him. He was
yeah.
slinging it. He's down 13 points in the fourth quarter. Didn't phase, or 14 points, I'm sorry, in
I
the
was to say
fourth
3
quarter.
minutes left.
Didn't phase him, slinging it.
Yeah,
Came all the way back, and a huge road win for the Titans. Really
yep,
hurt the Dolphins in terms of trying to get that 1 seed. The Titans probably aren't making the playoffs, but man, this is the kind of win that makes you say, okay, Will Levis is our guy moving forward.
yeah,
So huge for him, huge for that Titans franchise, even if it does not help them make the playoffs this year, that just to help them understand and have clarity of who their guy is going forward. And I think it has to be Will Levis at this point. So
yeah.
he was cooking, and I think the Titans hope he's probably cooking for him for a long time.
True. I would say that's another testament to Vrabel too. Just can never count them out. That dude's just a monster with the defense too. So all around, just grit from them boys. But this kicks off our Boo Boo Evans Award. Now this guy's making a comeback on this one, but this is all because the way this played out. We touched on it earlier. Obviously, he was lined up offside. I'm going Kadarius Toney for one. Now, I really just wanted to talk about the play more so than even talk about him being here. So, how'd you feel about the call?
It's the right call.
Yeah, I agreed. And you can't even see the ball from the side angle. One, two. when he checks with the ref, he literally just goes like routine, just like, "Hey, what's up?" and then looks away. And I'm pretty sure he takes an extra step forward after he checks, which is crazy.
Yes. No, I mean, that's all on Kadarius Toney. Patrick Mahomes just can't actually be mad at Kadarius Toney.
Yeah.
So he's finding someone else to be mad at, to be honest with you. Because there's no way he's actually that mad at the referee. Like, that's on Kadarius Toney, bro. That's a routine. High school kids do that. They understand, look and check.
Yeah.
Middle school, we have to teach the junior high kids how to do that. And they do it. Like, come on, dude. This is routine. This is junior high stuff. You check
Yeah.
with the ref. You make sure you're on. If he tells you to back up, you back up. You don't just like look and then line. I mean, come on, dude. That's
Yeah.
on Kadarius Toney. And that's why it's unacceptable. It's the
Yeah.
kind of thing that, like, realistically could and should get a player cut. Like, I wouldn't stand for that if I was Andy Reid. I'm going to be honest with you. I wouldn't, especially when it costs you the play that it was. But just in
Yeah.
general, that's just a bad mental mistake. Like, even if it wasn't a big play, even if it just been routine and he was offsides and it took you any kind of yards off the board and you got to go back 5 yards, that's stupid. That's a very easily controlled thing. Look at the ref, make sure you're on sides. That's it. And dude, if
Yeah, it
you
was
didn't
tough to
look,
watch.
then it's not the referee's job to track you down and tell you you're offsides. That
Yeah.
they don't do that with
He's not
defenders.
gonna hear you anyway.
They don't do
Like,
that with
if he
defensive
says,
ends
"Yo,
lined up in the
19,"
neutral
he's not
zone.
gonna hear you. It's loud as hell. You know what I mean?
No. And that's why, like, Mahomes, dude, you'd be mad if a referee was yelling at a defensive end he was in the neutral zone and told him to
Yeah.
back up.
Like, "Hey, back
Right? Like,
up."
that's not how it works. And no, Kadarius Toney completely deserves. It's one thing to drop a pass or run the wrong route. Like, he's done some of that stuff. Those are like, okay, in the heat of a game, tough. I feel bad for you. I don't feel bad for you lining up offsides and then being upset about it. No.
Yeah. No, yeah. And on the other flip side too, why didn't he look down at the ball and be like, "Oh, that thing looks like it's behind me," you know? Like, there's no way. There's no way. It's just a wild turn of events. Obviously, the play that also could have been a no cap, hats off, because it was so unbelievable, and it doesn't even exist because he lined up offside. So, yeah, Kadarius Toney back with the award. Boo Boo Evans, just the mental mistakes on that play, especially, just ultimately costing the game, literally.
Kadarius Toney not standing on business, but that's the segue to this award because we're talking about the best favorite who actually covered this week, and it was only 5.5-point favorite. That's the Saints. That was the highest cover this week. 5.5-point favorites. They won by a final score of 28-6. They did cover the spread by a mile. Like I said, a lot of underdogs won or covered this week. So we didn't have many folks to choose from, but the Saints, they stood on business. Derek Carr, maybe not great, but he got another win. Good for him.
I was gonna say, whatever the flip side is, that would be the Titans right there, because they 13.5 to the Dolphins and they won. Like,
Yeah, huge win for them.
yeah.
Speaking of the Titans, we're going to
On
the
turnover
turnover on
downs.
downs segment. Yep. And my first down trend is we're talking about going for 2, down 8 in the fourth quarter. Here we go.
Okay.
So I don't know how many of you who listen to us are familiar with Seth Walder, but he's a writer for ESPN. I think he does a really good job a lot of times writing about analytics stuff, right?
Okay.
And he's written about this trend. So if you want to, he'll explain it much better than
A
I.
little rub route.
But if you want to look at, what he says about the data in terms of going for 2, down 8 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So most teams, right, they go for 1 here, they're down 7. Then when they score the touchdown, sometimes teams will consider going for 2 at that moment to win the game there.
Yeah.
Or they just kick and they do the tie and they go to OT, right?
Yeah.
Well, he said that if you look at the statistical analysis, you give yourself a much higher chance of winning games if you go for 2 on the first one. And essentially the synopsis of it is this. If you go for 2 and you don't get it, now you're down 8 and you have to go
You
for 2
need
on
to
the
go
next
for 2
one.
anyways. Yeah.
Yes, and you can still tie it. But if you go for 2 and you get it, On the
Now you can
first
win.
one, now on the second one, you just get to kick. So instead of like I go for 1 and then I go for 2 on the next one, like if you would consider going for 2 to win the game, basically the argument is go for 2 on the first one. That way, if you don't get it, you have a little bit of a cushion because
Like,
you could
okay,
go for
this
2 on
didn't
the next
work,
one
and
and
now
get
we
it
got to
that
do it.
time. Yes.
Yeah.
Versus if you get it on the first one, now I just have to kick an extra point to win the game later.
Uh-huh.
So now the trend within that trend, right? So that's become a bigger deal. Teams going for it. But now the trend within that trend is teams love to run sprint out pick routes on the goal line. Everybody loves doing it. It's a staple in basically every offense nowadays, whether you go to high school, NFL, or college games, right? So you'll see it
Mm,
here. All the Titans are going to do, it's only a one-man route, really. DeAndre Hopkins, clearly the Titans' number one threat. He's
yeah.
going to run at the inside defender, right? Knows they're in man, runs at that inside defender, and then just basically tries to take him with him to the back of the end zone. Meanwhile, you're going to get an inside release from the slot receiver. He's going to inside release hard, but then cut back underneath DeAndre Hopkins. And if the Dolphins defenders don't communicate that rub route well, it's going to be impossible to cover. Meanwhile, Will Levis is sprinting to that throw to make it a shorter throw, and then he can put it on a line to the pylon, to the front pylon here, right? So here you
I was gonna
go.
say too, you could even possibly run that in depending how they play it.
Yep. And here you can see the rub works perfectly.
Yeah,
Takes
he's got
both
both.
guys. D-Hop leaves their receiver wide open. Will Levis has an easy throw. And now what's great about this for the Titans, this was their first touchdown. They're down 13-27. They score right here. That makes it 27-21. So then when they go score at the end of the game and they kick the extra point, it's for the win, not the tie.
Yeah.
And so now they win the game 28-27 as a 13.5-point dog. Impressive
Mhm.
stuff from the Titans. And I like that I could give you a trend within a trend.
Yeah, that was dope. I mean, it definitely a clutch play for them, so that's
Yeah.
for sure we can lock that in for them. And the Ravens also went for 2 as well when they doing that to I think tie it up at
Theirs was
28 or
a must go for 2 to
mm,
tie. Or no, to go up by
the
3.
3.
That was their deal.
Yeah,
If they kicked the extra point, they would have been up 2. So field
2
goal
and
beats
then
them.
still wins. Mm.
Yeah, getting the 2 there made it so that the field goal didn't beat them. It tied it. And that ultimately, that's probably what won the Ravens the game is on the series prior, the Rams did not get their 2-point conversion to possibly go up 7, I believe is what it was.
Uh-huh.
And instead, they're up 5. Then when the Ravens come back and score, they get their
Mm.
2-point conversion
Yeah.
to
Okay.
put them up 3. So
Okay.
that's really where the game was won. Was one team didn't get their 2 points, the other team did, and then that sets up the overtime when the Ravens can win on the punt return.
Yeah, gotcha. So second down, we got the bet for next week from me. The 4 I'm looking at this week, I got the Bengals -3 versus the Vikings. Bengals have been red hot. Vikings, like, they're on their third quarterback, and their last one wasn't even there until like a month ago. We got the Broncos +4.5 versus the Lions. Let's see. I got Bears and Browns. I like the over 38.5. Joe Flacco's been scoring a lot of points. Bears have been scoring a lot of points. That one makes sense to me. And then Jets 8.5 versus the Dolphins. Jets have just been playing spoiler in that division altogether since the beginning of time. When that week 1 with Zach Wilson coming in, they beat the Bills. So it's like they've been doing things here and there. But my ultimate answer, I'm going Bengals -3. But
Ooh,
I also do like that Broncos +4.5 as well. So pick your poison on those 2. I would say even the Bears Browns over is a nice one, but the Bengals -3 is my final answer right here for the boys.
I like that based on the Vikings, how their defense is played.
Yeah,
I'm with you on the Broncos, though. 4.5, they're getting too many points the way
yeah.
they're playing right now and the way the Lions are playing. I'm with you on that. Going next, we got the third down breakdown. I'm going to take you guys back to Atlanta from this past weekend. We're going to look at the Bucks and Baker Mayfield and Chris Godwin, what they were able to do on a critical 3rd and 10. This is late in the game. They're losing, and they need this third down. this led to an eventual score, which won them the game. So this was
Okay.
like the play, right? So it's 3rd and 10. They're on the Atlanta 48-yard line going in. They design a nice little route concept here. They're going to run vertical routes on the outside. You're going to get 2-man from the defense.
Yeah.
So they're manned up here. The guy in the gap on the line of scrimmage over here actually has the back, and the defender showing out here is actually going to blitz. So that's their 4-man pressure. They're just overloading one side. Then they're playing man, man, man. And then you've got 2 high safeties with the Madden style deep shell here, right? So
I will
the
say I like
Bucks are
the
going to.
circles you added on the
Yeah, you
graphic
like
too.
that?
Yeah.
The Bucks are they're going to run vertical routes, basically clear routes on the outside. They're going to chip the extra rusher here with their tight end first, and then he's going to release to the flat. Really what they're setting up is a one-on-one with Chris Godwin. But again, there's a safety over the top. It's 2-man. So it's a 2-on-1. He's got to beat both guys, the man coverage player and the zone safety sitting at depth. They're hoping that the outside receiver clears him out so that he's trying to play on top of that one, but it doesn't. And you'll see what happens on the route concept as he runs a post corner. Here we go. Godwin's initial release is great because he gets inside leverage, right? Now he's got the defender on his back. He has him wherever he wants him. Now this safety, he feels Chris Godwin is winning this release. He's thinking, oh man, if they throw the dig right now, it's a first down. So he's trying to come up and make a heady play here to cover for the guy getting beat. Instead, as he comes up, Godwin keeps getting up the field. Now he can run the fake inside release, right? Looks like the post or the dig. Releases it back outside of the corner. Now, I'm going to tell you, the DB here playing him in man coverage does a great job converting and getting back underneath, and he makes this throw really hard. However, Baker Mayfield and Chris Godwin have great chemistry here. You'll see it from this angle. Baker releases this ball when Godwin is actually still breaking in, right? And he's just starting his breakout, and that ball is released. So where Mayfield puts it, look at this thing. Puts it right where Godwin can get it, even though there's a safety in
defender too.
Yep. Layers it right over the man coverage player. Godwin breaks the initial tackle, gets him all the way inside the 15-yard line, sets him up. They eventually score on that drive to go win the game. Great stuff from Baker Mayfield and Chris Godwin. I mean,
that was a nice ball.
The route concept from Godwin to beat essentially 2 defenders was unreal. And then the ball placement by Baker Mayfield with the anticipation, the understanding of where Godwin was going to be, the trust, and to put that ball just right up here, layered over the defender. I mean, that was unreal stuff. That's the kind of stuff that you watch with Baker, where like for years I've convinced myself he's a good starting quarterback, but he does so many bad things that you're like, he can't be. And then he'll make that play where you're like, why can't this guy be the guy? Why can't he be? Because that throw is elite.
Yeah, that's a nice spot on the ball for sure. And it was a nice little spiral out of reach of the defender. But closing out our turnover on downs, 4th down is going to be my bad beat. So you talked about it with that Army-Navy game. The over-under in that game was 27.5. After getting the safety on him, that puts him at 28. So depending on which side of the coin you were on, that was probably a bad beat. Especially if you didn't think they were scoring points like that.
Oh, man.
Like I know people who were excited because I hit for them, but then on the other side, it's like you were chilling all game, and then they just run out of bounds. You know what I mean?
There had to have been somebody who had the under and was like, "Oh my gosh, Army got the stop. Let's go. It's gonna hit. The bet's gonna hit." And then the next play, watching Army take the safety to lose the bet had to be absolutely demoralizing. That's why I'm not a gambler. We've talked about this before in this podcast. I don't gamble just because I don't feel like I have the financial capital. I don't really believe in it. Yeah, whatever. I enjoy talking about it, but I don't gamble. But even if I did, I would never bet over unders. It feels like it does not matter how good or bad that like anything could happen. It could be a blowout or not. Like, golly, can you believe that? That's what breaks you is the guy taking a safety at the end of a game. Oh, that's gross.
Yeah. No, that's the worst part too. Like, especially like some games are blowouts. They don't even. It's like, say it's like 40 and the score was 33-6. Like, the other team needed to kick a field goal. I don't know, get their extra point. Who knows? And that's the
Yeah,
worst.
I couldn't do it. Couldn't be me. That's terrible. So we got to close it out with the banger of the week.
Yes,
You
sir. What do you
know,
got for us this week?
it's the holiday season, and in
Of
the spirit
course.
of the holidays, I wanted to reference a classic. I
Uh-huh.
was reminded of this by our football players the week of
Oh,
our playoff
at work?
game. Yeah, the week of our playoff game, they were in the weight room and they
Uh-huh.
requested this song. And remind you, we are more than a month out from Christmas at
Yeah, I was
that
gonna say,
point.
well, this isn't even Thanksgiving yet.
No, yeah, we were a week before Thanksgiving, and they
Yeah.
requested this song, so I was reminded of it, and I told myself when we got closer to Christmas, this would be one of my
Yeah.
bangers of the week, just because it's so good still. It really
Uh-huh.
is. Mariah Carey, "All I Want for Christmas," perfect seasonal banger, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, she
Definitely.
kills it. Probably her best song ever.
I don't want a lot for Christmas.
Christmas. Yep,
There's
no,
just
no,
one thing I need, and I
yeah, no, you nailed it, dude. Karaoke. Jody, I
I
need to
don't know
add
the
that to
words
your
like that.
title card
You
every
know it's
week. Karaoke king, bro.
the crazy part
I
is
got him laughing.
I'm not even a fan of Christmas music like that. Honestly, it's just
She's
one of the
good.
ones you hear all the time. You know what I mean?
She's good. I gotta give credit where credit's due. And speaking of good, we gotta let our
Ooh,
guy
Ray
take us out.
taking it out. Gee.